Hey, muy buenas tardes, bienvenidos, welcome, and Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us. Julio, ¿cómo estamos? How are we doing, man?
Hey, muy bien, excelente. We're really excited about kicking off this new 2021 year. Listen,
Right,
2020 is in the back of our mind, all as you can see constantly, but we're super excited to kick off, especially with the guests we have today, Mario. We were very fortunate to have, to me, a fan favorite for the U.S. national team.
Absolutely.
Even as we talking, I was a Mexico supporter at the time, right? But he definitely was fun to watch. We really enjoyed it, and we are very privileged to have him tonight. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Nicole Hercules, who kind of encouraged me to reach out to Cobi, who is the chair of the Black Coaches Advocacy Group here at United Star Coaches. Love you, Nicole. Love what you're doing. My sister in advocacy. Love everything that you're doing. Michael, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. I hope everyone is having a fantastic way of getting back into the new year. But most importantly, we're extremely blessed to be here with an incredible ambassador of the game, incredible player for the U.S. national team, Cobi Jones, played in England, Brazil, United States. Bienvenidos, my friend. ¿Cómo estás? How you doing?
I'm doing very well, gentlemen. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm very happy to spend some time with the both of you and all your guests out there.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to get into really what the hot topic is about this conversation briefly, which is obviously about your candidacy or your run for the vice presidency, which we're extremely excited to hear about your platforms, of which is the reason why you're here with us. In the meantime, Julio, ¿quieres saludar a la gente que nos está sincronizando?
Yes, like always thanking everybody that makes this show possible. Coque Hernandez, buenas noches. Thank you for South Carolina. Rafael Garzón, hello, hermano. How you doing? Coque Hernandez, this one's for you, Cobi. Bienvenido, Cobi Jones. Muy recordado en Costa Rica. Again, he's well known throughout the CONCACAF region. We love Cobi. He was one of those guys that we really loved. He was a good guy. Man. He still is a good guy. Arnoldo Vázquez, saludos desde Chicago, los amigos del mejor grupo de entrenadores. Gracias. Mesias dos Santos, great job, Julio. Thank you, Mesias. Hey, Mesias, you're part of this too, my friend. So don't sell yourself short. You're a part of this too. Jose Luis Rodriguez, thank you guys for tuning in. Josh Acevedo, thank you for joining us, Josh, tonight. We're excited to really hear from you. And Cobi's really going to flip the classroom tonight, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to flip the classroom. He really wants to, not only do we want to know a little bit about him, but he wants to know a little bit about us and our coaches group and our community's needs. And that's what we're excited to hear. Saludos desde Atlanta. Cobi, Mario, take it away, my friends.
Yes, absolutely fantastic. So, Cobi, traditionally, just a quick intro to a little bit of who you are, how you got here, essentially, just so that the people can gain a little bit more context if they don't know you, your beginning steps in the game, and basically where it took you. If you could please do that.
Yes, of course. I'm a big believer of believing that no one knows who I am. So that's how I always like to address it. Look, I started playing soccer in the early 70s in the Los Angeles area. I grew up in Southern California, been there pretty much my whole life. I grew up going through the standard ranks, AYSO, club, even though this is all very different nowadays, but AYSO, club, school, then college, and then that led into, you're getting into more of the bigger scheme of, national teams and all that, and ended up playing on the U.S. Olympic team, played on in '92 in Barcelona, played on the World Cup team with 3 different World Cups, throughout my career, and then played with the LA Galaxy from the founding year for 12 years, and then coached for 3 years with the Galaxy. And then I moved off the field, so to speak, and then kind of behind the scenes and in front of the camera, doing the broadcasting for the regional side for the Galaxy, and then a lot of stuff internationally, like with Fox Sports. I do the Liga MX, and I do some stuff with BN Sport as well as internationally. And that's just a general side of myself as far as just what I did within the soccer world. But as everybody knows about any person, there's always so much more. For me,
absolutely,
growing up in Southern California, soccer gave me a lot. It gave what was the most important thing that soccer gave to you? And I always say, you know what, it gave me the opportunity to travel and see the world and experience different cultures and peoples and just really get a sense of, you know, not only what my area was like, but what different people, you know, are like. And I think that's helped shape me, you know, into who I am today.
Sí, lo más grande de que Cobi que se lleva del fútbol es la gente que conoció, las culturas, todas las personas que él tuvo el privilegio de conocer. Obviamente, siempre lo decimos aquí en este grupo, Mario, que el fútbol son más que los 90 minutos. No solo los 90 minutos, es toda la cultura, los amigos, las amistades que se conocen, y la verdad, estamos agradecidos con Cobi por estar esta noche. Cobi, real quick, it's past 90 minutes, man. And yeah, I think you summed it up so well, so eloquently. The game is not 90 minutes, not 90 minutes. It's everything after the 90 minutes that we take with us forever. But no, again, Mario, beautiful.
Yes, no, and I think to that point, I think the incredible thing is that there is an obvious tone and an obvious direction to what your communication is, which is something that's extremely progressive, understanding that what you want to take from your as a player globally and locally, you want to take that in essentially your candidacy to vice president, if I'm not mistaken. Can you just kind of begin to introduce us to what you want to do as a former player with that experience into your vice presidency?
Yeah, as everyone probably knows now, I'm running, you know, for U.S. Soccer Vice President, and the reason being, I feel this is the time. I've never really been one that said, okay, I'm out there, look at me, I'm doing this, that, or the other. Maybe that's part of the jobs that I've done, but that's not my personality. You can ask the people that. But I feel, you know, as we look at all the varied issues that have occurred within U.S. soccer over the past, you know, few years. You look at the various social issues that are going on, you know, not only within the United States, but around the world. I felt this was a good time where I could step up and have change, especially with my lived experience that I kind of went into with my broad knowledge of not only, I feel, of the game, which I feel is the most important part, but also sprinkling in that experience of internationally and experience of all these other cultures and places. Because when it comes down to it, you know, for me, it's all about, you know, it's about having that diversity, having that representation and access, you know, throughout U.S. soccer, from top to bottom, from bottom to top. I believe you need that, because that in turn makes the game we love better and will make U.S. soccer better.
So, Cobi, I want to branch off of that real quick. Why do you think that makes? Why do you think diversity is so important from top to bottom and from bottom to top? Why is it? I mean, why do you think it's so important?
Well, because a lot of times people think diversity is, okay, I want a Latino here, I want a black person here, a white person here, an Asian person here. No, that's not it. Yes, that is a part where we're talking about, you know, the different cultures, you know, that make up the U.S., but we also want different sex, you know, where you're talking about male and female, having that representation. But you also, probably more importantly, you want the diversity of thought, you know, that comes along with it. The diversity of experience, you know, the diversity of education, you know, all the way around, because you want people to have different backgrounds and different ways of looking at things, because then guess what? You have a broader way of looking at the problem, and probably an easier way to find a way to solve that problem in the end.
You know, Cobi, it seems to me that you're basically, diversity is a superpower. Where people think it's a weakness, right? I think diversity, I think you would agree with me that it's a superpower, right? So let's really maximize that superpower. You know, some people are afraid of the diversity, maybe because they don't understand diversity, of what it really means. But explain to us a little bit how you're seeing it as a positive thing, and for us to grow, as others may see it as, you know, we're holding people back. Do we really need it? You know, explain a little bit more about that, of why. I know you said thought, I know you said all these other people, but why? What is that going to do other than just the thought? What is it going to do?
Well, I think if you have that diversity, it allows you to look at, like I said, look at problems at a different way, and you can handle things a bit differently. You know, just having an opinion that someone that has a different background, it's important. It's important to understand because you can look at the problem in a certain way. Look, the person in upstate New York is not going to have the same problems as the person in San Diego, California. You know, the person that is in the Black community in Chicago will not have the same problem as someone within the Latino community in Southern Florida. You know, and having look, we're not going to hit everybody. You know, that's not it. So we have to have everybody in every single thing. But if we can get some representation throughout in some of these different areas, I think you get a general coverage that is needed. You know, you get that general coverage and that general opinions that can eventually address these problems in some way, shape, or form.
Yes. I see that. And I think ultimately it's recognizing, listen, of course we want things to go smoothly, but the fact of the matter is that life isn't about having things go smoothly. It's about having the ability to react and find a solution. And the more people we draw in from the different backgrounds, that makes this country so incredibly big and beautiful, is the diversity. And I think ultimately what we want more than anything to have people become, and we spoke about this, Cobi, right before, is having people feel like they're involved, that they're actual stakeholders, is that they feel identified with this diversity that they see, right? They recognize this. How important would you say that is to that sense of identity as an ambassador and as a former player yourself?
Yeah, this is very important, and I hope I'm getting this correct as far as what you're leaning towards. Having a diverse U.S. soccer allows everyone that has the opportunity to play this game to look up into the future and go, oh, look, there's a Black person that's the vice president of U.S. soccer. There's a Latino person that is the president of U.S. soccer. And every little kid can go, oh, I can do that then. You know, it's that example where you can say, okay, if that person can do it, I can do it. That's where we talk about the representation and where it's needed to really inspire, you know, the next generation. And when I talk about the representation and access, it's not just about just putting the face up there and just go, okay, I'm here, we did it. No, it's also about advocacy as well. It's also about going in there and pushing to try to make things happen, because you can have representation and then you can let it die on the vine. That's not what we want. We want to make sure that you have that representation and access, you know, all the way and throughout. And when we talk about access, we start talking about, you know, the quote unquote barriers to entry, you know, that we are really starting to see, you know, when we talk about the pay to play system and these types of things. Now, look, I'm not a burn it down guy, you know, throw it all out the window. No, but can we find other ways to, you know, to build up alongside, you know, this pay to play system? So we start addressing, you know, these barriers to entry, because if you have to pay, you know, $4,000 or $5,000, you know, to play the game that all you need is a ball, you know, and some friends, that's going to be a problem. I'll tell you right now, as a kid, if my parents were told, yeah, we need $5,000 for your son to play soccer, I wouldn't have been playing soccer. No way. I'll tell you right now, my parents were from Mobile, Alabama. There is no way they would have that type of money, you know, for that. So yeah, I think it's important to understand that there's many things that need to be addressed. I just think that we need to try to find a way to address them, talk about them, and see if we can actively start, you know, doing something about it. And that's probably the most important part, because we hear a lot of times like, yeah, I'm going to do this, and it seems to be like crickets, you know, after a while. So hopefully I can actually, if I do get elected, can go in and do.
Yep. You know, and we've seen that, right? We've seen that across different organizations where they start out really strong, right? Rah, rah, rah. And then 2 years later, wait, what? We had this? And so I think it's important to be meaningful and purposeful about the diversity. And quite frankly, like I told Shalom and I told Nicole this past week at the convention, if people are missing from the table, then we need to build a bigger table.
Yeah.
Quite frankly. You know what I'm saying? We got to take a look around. And I think the onus is on all of us, Cobi, at all levels of the game. We got to need to look around us. If we don't see the community that we live in represented, in our local clubs, in our local associations. We need to find out why.
No,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, you got something. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I completely agree with that. We've got to find out why, and that's an important part. And it brings me to another huge issue within U.S. soccer. And I know we have, AYSO, U.S. Club, USYS, adult, pro, all these things that are under this massive tent that is U.S. soccer. And that's understandable because it's a massive country. But I think one of the areas that really needs to be addressed is when we talk about, okay, we want to grow this game. Well, how do you grow the game? Basic and simple is bringing more people in, right? Well, if everybody wants to grow and all these different groups want to have more people, can we find a way to do that? And I think probably the biggest, untapped group that is on the side is all the unaffiliated players, the unaffiliated teams that are out there that are saying, no, we don't need U.S. soccer. We're doing our own thing. It's fantastic. Well, can we find a way to reach out to those groups? Can we find a way to work together and find out the different players, the different teams, coaches, whatever, to give them a reason to want to come in to U.S. soccer, to feel more accepted that, yes, that badge, that is the U.S. soccer badge, that's their badge too. There you go. You got it on that. There you go. Now not the Nike one. Nike was good too, but yeah, the U.S. badge, that's theirs. That's theirs, and they should be, feeling like that's part of their community. That's what we'd like to do, or at least that's what I'd like to do, is to see if there's a committee or a group that we could put together to start researching that and finding that out.
I love it, Cobi. We have in the gallery here a few people coming with some questions. And I think there's a few questions here that are going to actually tie into what your key points are, right? Which is about accessibility and representation. The question here that we have from Mauricio Lozada is, as a person, how would you bring all those organizations together for the betterment of the game based on what you're looking to spearhead between accessibility and representation?
Well, as a VP, to be quite frank, you can ask. You have to ask the president, hey, is this something that fits in with the role, and this is something that I would like to do. It's about, now if I do get that permission, it is about saying, okay, can I form, a committee, and I would say a representative committee, because I need to talk to the people that are part of it. I don't need to talk to just all the people in the board and say, okay, what should we do for, this group or that group? No, I would like to see if there is that representation there. If that's getting outside opinions, just to say, okay, look at it this way. Let's see if we can put this committee together. Can we put this task force together to research it, find out, and say, okay, let's bring some of the groups together, and how do we reach out, into the unaffiliated, all the unaffiliated teams. If it's about representation and access, that's a hard fight. That's about number one, and this is why one of the reasons why I put my name in the hat for VP. You got to get your foot in the door. It's very difficult for people to change if there's no one there within the group saying we should change. It's always outside noise. It starts to sound just like noise. But if we can get in the group, sit at the table and say, hey, this needs to start happening, then I think that's a way that we can slowly start that process. Because I don't believe it's just going to happen overnight. Yeah, but it's going to take hard work and talking to people and being available to people to make stuff happen.
Absolutely.
He hits the nail on the head. There has to be people that are involved at the upper levels that reach down and bring others with them, right? We can no longer just be gatekeepers of information and say, you can get in, you can get in, you can get in. No. We need to be curators of information, right? And provide it access to the masses and provide it to the masses. It can no longer be an invitation only to the party, right, Cobi? I mean, it really can't be anymore.
I completely agree. Yeah, you got to be an advocate. Being an advocate is stepping up
And here's the thing: we need all of the groups, right? So we need our women's group. You know, I shout out to Haley Carter, who's on the call tonight. You know, we need the women's group. We need the Black coaches group, the Latino coaches group, the LGBT coaches group. We all need to come to the table and really, like through our advocacy group here at the United Soccer Coaches Association, we're coming together and we're having the hard conversations, Cobi, that people maybe don't want to have. And I get it. Some people feel uncomfortable. I understand that. But it's my job as an advocate to make you feel uncomfortable within reason. I don't want to scare you, but I do want to make you feel uncomfortable. And I do want, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, look, one thing that I've usually found is, look, you always have extremes on one side or the other. I think that one thing that is important to remember is that the majority of people that are usually involved in the United Soccer Coaches or involved with U.S. soccer, they played this sport at some time. And the end goal for all these people, it may be a different way, but it's to make this sport better, and to make it more, I would think, more inclusive and to build this game. So for me, I played at the highest level. I'm used to criticisms, I'm used to people saying, no, this isn't the way. Yes, this is the way. People screaming at me and yelling at me. I understand that. But just know for me, I take it all to heart and understand that, yeah, we can scream and yell in a room and not agree with each other on certain things. But as long as we're all in that room together trying to work towards, that common goal of making U.S. soccer a more inclusive. I think I need to say it 3 times, more inclusive, and, a better organization.
Cobi, you touched base. You obviously touched point on the inclusiveness and reaching out to the other advocacy groups in the country in order to have a good pulse on things. Would you consider those initiatives, or would you consider those ideas that you would like to bring to the table? What are some sort of initiatives that you would like to at least potentially implement that has a 3-step process on saying, hey, listen, this is what I'd want to do. This is the execution part, and this is the end result. Would you be able to share anything with us on that sense?
Yeah, well, I have 5 things that I want to kind of focus on, and there's different levels of importance, But the first and foremost, I think we've kind of gone over it, is the access to the game. That really gets into the whole diversity, racial equity, and it's access to the information, the resources, the opportunities, all these different things, and breaking down the barriers to entry, that all these underserved communities have. That's one. The other one would be the gender equity. I think that's extremely important, and I think that's come to the forefront over the last few years. We're seeing the issues within the women's game, and I think that needs to be something where we could step up. If it's going hand in hand with the women's team, because this is where I'm talking at the top, to say, okay, that there's a different pay scale there. I don't believe in a zero-sum game. I don't believe that the men make more, that the women make less, the women make more, the men make less. I think there's enough for all. I just think that can we approach it, maybe a little bit different? Can we? Because the big issue is how much that FIFA, brings, into the fold. Well, can we go side by side with the women's team and approach FIFA and say, hey, you know what, you need to step up. You need to step up. That's necessary. Can we look at some of the sponsors that have come into U.S. soccer because of the women's success? Can we look at that as being the routes that we could go? I would say looking at other let me put it this way. Can we look at the rethinking of the business of U.S. soccer? Now, I'm not talking about the fiduciary role. That's taken care of. There's accounting firms that are handling all that, to making sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. But, how the money is spent, where the money is going, that's the important part. Are we focused enough, or are we getting enough bang for our buck? Are we getting enough value out of every dollar spent in the game? Are we putting it in the right areas, to make sure that we can, make a bigger tent and bring others into the fold? I would also say when we look at other, the disabled or physically challenged, that's another arena that is underserved. where I know U.S. soccer now. I've looked at the form. It's the form 990 that gives all the information on U.S. soccer where a lot of the money's going. Some of it does go, to some of these groups, but can it be more? I think we can do a little bit better to make sure that there are other opportunities there that we can build upon. And then finally, I would say, can we look at the actual total development? And this is from youth all the way to the top, and what I mean by that is, and we mentioned it earlier on, Julio, is that this game is a wonderful game. And if you look at it from the youth level where it starts out, we all love the kids, that are on that field, and all the kids that are on the sidelines that are playing, and everyone that's part of the team. But can we focus at U.S. Soccer also, bring a little more focus, maybe I should say, into the coaching, into refereeing, into the administration, and all these different views that can go from youth all the way up to see if we can develop people that maybe are on the sidelines of this game, that are a part of this game, that usually we see are start out, at the beginning and end up being in the game for 30, 40 years,
Yeah.
That. And these are people that are just, it could be a teen dad, or a teen mom that's just starting out, and 30 years later, they could still be in the game. Can we start helping out in those areas and looking in administration and all these different things? We got to see if U.S. soccer is organized in that way to get the best results.
I like that, and I think that actually leads a little bit further into what our current situation is right now in the United States, because as grassroots instructors, both Julio and myself, we've been able to hop in on licensed instructing courses on the other side of the country, whereas before it wasn't really thought of. Now, with the accessibility in terms of being able to reach out to people, could you see technology having a greater impact on that ability to reach out to saying, hey, listen, we're going to create a webinar or a seminar series for these parents to help navigate these troubled situations? How do you see that potentially come into play?
Yeah, I think, look, you bring up a great point that I hadn't thought of. So this is my first time really getting a handle on that. But I think that would be fantastic to actually, set something up within U.S. Soccer where we could make, the webinars and give, close to like some type of classes where they could understand, how the best way to manage a team, at the youth level, at different ways.
Practice types, yeah.
I think it's fantastic. Now, I have to admit, I'm not the most tech savvy, so I won't be putting in, as you guys have found out when you're trying to deal with all this stuff. I'm like, links, where are the links at?
It's very good.
I can barely tweet or Facebook.
Figure
it all out myself. So. I'll put somebody else in charge of that. Delegation. That's
there you go. Delegation.
There you go. And to be fair, I do want to give kudos to the soccer education staff at U.S. Soccer. They have really adapted. They've done a fantastic job. Mark and I have both been witness to it. But I think what also this does, Cobi, it fits into your platform where it takes away barriers, right? Let's look at the Latino community, the African American community, the Asian community that have day jobs that aren't the full-time soccer coach, right? But they still want to get better. They still want to be a part of the process. I think that what Mario is saying is this tool is going to allow them to have more access to like you say, a coaching course, right? Which is doing now with the grassroots modules now. They're online. I think they're like $25, so they're very accessible for people now, right? So I think this going hand in hand and the education piece is going to help you reach that. And again, but it's also, like you say, the staffing of U.S. Soccer from top to bottom. I'm not saying wholesale changes. I'm not saying that at all. But here's the thing. If our association or our federation or our organization does not look like our country or does not look like our communities, of course there's going to be people that don't feel like they belong, right? But it's getting those people into places. And listen, I'm not advocating, and I've told this to everybody, we don't advocate for just handing out jobs willy-nilly. There is work to be done for people that want to do the work, but we definitely need to provide them different folks, like you say, different opportunities.
Well, one thing that I found, Julio, kind of going along with what you just said, I agree with you. It's not handing out jobs willy-nilly, and it's not just saying, oh, well, we've got to meet a quota, No, what it is, and this is a big problem people don't think about, is when those jobs are available, how do they know about it? How do you find out about it?
There you go.
This is where we need to get the word out that these jobs are available, that there is potential to actually, step up and say, oh, this is something that I might like, and be able to go and reach out for it. And this is where we have to push that out into the different underserved communities to make sure that they know that there's a job position open, because half the time, I'd say more than half, 90% of the time, no one knows. And then and how many times have you been? And look, I like I said, I have, and this is sad to say, I have about almost 50 full years in this soccer business. But how many times have you been on the sidelines just going like, how did that person get that job? How did they even know that job? What is that job? These are some of the things that really hampers, the underserved community, when you don't even know that the job is out there and that it's being that they're looking to fill the positions.
But that goes back to my point of the gate. It goes back to my point of the gatekeeping mentality, right? Is then they only give it to a certain few. Hey, there's this job available. Hey, there's this job, right? No, it's about being curators of that information and putting it out there for as many people to see in different communities. You know what I'm saying? And I think, again, I really enjoying this conversation, Cobi. I know your time is very valuable, but there people are responding. There's tons of chat. There's tons of questions. People are really engaged. We have over 400 people engaged in this conversation. So people are really excited about this. I just wanted to put this one here just because it refers to your Coventry days. Our friend Robert Harrington, who is our favorite Englishman Latino, by the way, because he's based out of Mexico City, but he's a Brit, but he's out of Mexico City. He remembers Cobi well since his World Cup days and then Coventry City days. I think he was on the team that humiliated us 2-0, right? I think that's right, Robert. I think that's right. Glad to hear his perspective on how the game here in the U.S. can be improved. And number one, become a more inclusive sport culturally and economically. So again, shout out to Robert Harrington, who's our favorite Latino Brit. And he's referring to Mexico when he says humiliated 2-0. Yes, he was part of that group, I believe. And I still have tears because of that, Cobi. But anyway, and then our friend Haley Carter from the Women's Advocacy Group. We have to put the right people in to achieve long-term success. It can't be anyone just because they're the first in the room, right? We have to develop people, develop opportunities, and ensure people are set up for sustained success. Again, that means people like us, like you, Cobi, like Haley, like Mario, like Luisa, like Roberto, is bringing others to the room saying, hey, go for it. Hey, you can do this. Hey, we're here to help you. So thank you, Haley, for that. Thank you for joining us. And Luisa Borreguero out of San Diego, the art of collaboration and support each other. Absolutely fantastic. Again, thank you to all the guests that have and you let us know, Cobi, if you have questions for us now, we can put it out there to the audience. They're very active. They're chatting away. So, feel free to ask them questions directly, and hopefully we get some good responses that you could use to help you, and provide you tools to better serve this federation and this country at the position that you're running for.
Yeah, I would love to know, and this is one of the big ones for me, and I mentioned it to you before, is how do you suggest approaching or engaging all the unaffiliated teams and players out there and have them see the U.S. soccer badge as their own?
That's a great question, Mario, and I hope people out there are listening. I know Cobi, actually, we knew each other indirectly because we serve on a board with a project that's going on with this type of thing. But we really need to find solutions to this. This is an everyday problem. So the question again is, how do we bring those non-affiliated members, non-affiliated leagues, clubs, teams, communities? How do we make them feel a part of the process? How do we make them feel a part of the process? John Paul Barata, our friend out of New England says we need to bring them into the room, but then we need to listen to the ideas and help execute the ideas so they can serve the game. And then also, he says, need to help them understand the benefits of being affiliated, and then obviously keeping it affordable, Cobi, as we talked about, is allowing the access for all price points. All price points. But again, we'll wait for more. Mario, if you have something to add as more questions or more answers are coming in to Cobi's question.
I think we briefly touched base on this, Cobi, in our conversation beforehand, which is the ability to reach out at that grassroots level, right? And that's imperative in terms of being able to identify the fans, the future fans, future players, administrators, coaches. And I think that's also part of that initiative, getting into that grassroots area, which is that badge representing a helping hand. It's that badge is representing getting into these communities that may seem, quote unquote, far from the mainstream soccer hubs. It's that extra effort of knowing that these are going to be the initiatives that are ultimately going to catapult more groups of people, but more than anything, seeing the U.S. badge in these territories, kind of sticking it in the ground sort of thing, right? And having that sort of representation, that's such a big thing. I mean, this country is huge. It really is big. And I've had the pleasure of being able to drive half of the country, and you're in complete awe with the size of it. But there's no shortage of people here, and it's about making the non-fan into a fan. And I think that grassroots bit is such an important key to it all.
Cobi, I also want to add, I think that's also bringing people like us to the table, right? That us that have kind of made that transition where we understand the benefits, we understand the education, the support that U.S. soccer or that an association federation can provide, and then having us go back to our communities and talking it up. Going back to Mario's grassroots movement, right? Is really building the bridges. And we've said this before in the conversation. If they don't see anybody like them or anybody that shares their story, Cobi, they're not going to feel like they want to even be part of that, right? So I think it's important that we send folks that are culturally aware of that community so that they can create a relationship. Because I think, first of all, people, I don't want to say buy because we're not selling anything, right? Mm-hmm. But people choose people. They don't choose brands. They choose people, right? And so if we can get more grassroots movements going, more initiatives going, especially along the border states, right? As you know, Cobi, the border states, up in the Seattle area, the DC area, South Florida, really getting in there with people and members of the community that understand and maybe are a part of the process already. So then they can go back and say, hey, listen, this is what we have for you. This is what can be having, identification. Because again, at the end of the day, everything's about numbers, right? Because a lot of naysayers, Cobi, like, well, they're not going to come. Well, if we do courses in Spanish, they're not going to come. Or if
you don't do it.
Exactly. It goes back to the Field of Dream things, right? If you build it, they will come. Yeah. And so if we go into those communities with people that understand or are members of those communities, it's going to be an easier transition. And then we're vetted, right? And then we bring Cobi Jones in, and then it's like, oh, hey, he's Julio's friend. He must be good, or hey, he's Mario's friend. He must be good. You know what I'm saying? So it's vetting. It's getting into the communities. And I say this to coaches every day, Cobi. When you're invited to a quinceañera from one of your players and you don't go, that
hurts, man.
That hurts. Because they're considering you part of the family.
Yeah.
Right? They're considering you part of the family to extend that invitation. And it's those little nuances that maybe the Anglo coach doesn't understand, right? It's that the cultural understanding. And you don't have to agree with it. You don't have to be a fan of it. But just understand what's important to that group, right? Even if you can't make it, I tell my coaches all the time, even if you can't make it, show up with a card, say, hey, happy birthday. Sorry, I have a game, or my wife has plans, but that will go a long way, right? To not leave that community hanging, because they've been let down a lot. We don't need saving. You know that. Our communities don't need saving. We don't need Superman to come in and say, here I am. No, we don't need to be saved. We just need to be, what's the word I'm looking for, Marty? We've talked about this plenty of times. What's the word I'm looking for? We need to be guided, right? And maybe just shown the way, right? Or provided the information. Hey, this is what you can do. I don't know. We get passionate about this, as you guys know, but
No, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear that because you know that's what's needed. That's what's needed at every level. You know, just the passion to try to build this sport. And as I said, we may not agree on everything, but you gotta love the passion. You know, that is when somebody's passionate about it.
Right. You know, and again, I'm applauding U.S. Soccer for because we're working on the Spanish grassroots programs right now with Zach Crawford and Stefan with the education staff. So again, round of applause for them and the team that translated it. But here's the thing: those communities, Cobi, are going to appreciate U.S. Soccer for going above and beyond and recognizing them. Hey, you know what? You're valid. We think about you, and that has so much power, Cobi. That to be validated. But, you know, they respect their identity. They expect their principles. Listen, most of us can speak English, right? Most of us can. Let's be honest. Most of us can. But we feel more welcome when all of a sudden you're providing something to us in our language or something that we can understand. And that goes for all languages. I think would be more welcoming to provide as many as we possibly can. It takes a lot of effort, but I think that would be, again, it would go a long way. It would go a long way. It would go a long way.
You know, we had a suggestion here from Macias, and I think it's pretty interesting. But I think it's worth at least mentioning. He said, you know, he thinks it would be interesting if there's some sort of institution with a greater identity within each state. He had mentioned that in Brazil there's 27 federations, but one confederation type of thing. Obviously, with the United States being so large, I guess what he's trying to get to is perhaps saying, how can we, I guess, maximize the associations that are in each state so that they have greater reach to the rest of the community, right? Similar to what you were saying before, I remember having a conversation with Zach Crawford. A lot of these people don't know the information. So maybe it's that sense of who's overseeing these associations that help reach out to the rest of the community, help establishing that type of relationship. I've heard phenomenal things about Chicago, but, you know, not maybe all the associations are on the same wavelength. So some sort of continuity in terms of U.S. Soccer Federation, associations, and the community. How's that word funneling down, and if it's being done efficiently? That's what I got from Macias.
No, I think that's a good one. You know, and that's where you start getting into the question of, you know, it's going to be like, okay, whose responsibility is it? But I think what it comes down to is making sure, you know, where's the pressure going to come from, right? It's going to come from underneath, saying, hey, in my state association, we've got to get this information out, that this is open, that this is available. And that's got to also, they'll say that same pressure's got to come up to U.S. Soccer. Hey, if we're talking about the national organization and governing body, this is open, this is available. And these are the things that need to be done, you know, at every level of the game, because the federation and the association is nothing without the players, you know, the coaches, the referees, you know, and the associate members and all that. So we've got to speak up and say, hey, we want to know this, that, and the other within our association. And it takes a little action on our part to actually step up and get in contact with the people and say, hey, you know what? Can we maybe put this out and put it on the website, make sure everybody can see it, and it's got a link, or it's on the front page, you know, instead of, you know, 3 hyperlinks and, you know, and in the background, just so people can know, and just so it's right up front and central. I think the pressure needs to come, and just, you know, letting everybody know that this is what we want.
I like it. I think the education, Eduardo Villarreal made an interesting point as well. He says, you know, here in the United States, the MLS doesn't have a face per se. NBA has LeBron, NFL Tom Brady, but he feels that the MLS doesn't really have a face. Perhaps what he's trying to get to is there someone that's constantly being represented in the television scene? You as a commentator, Cobi, do you think that's something that has been helpful in the past? Do you see that being a trend? What's your 2 cents on that?
I think if we're talking about MLS in general, I think that it's kind of, like you said, it's shifted, you know, over time. I think right now, it's very difficult, and I think part of that is also due to the rapid expansion, you know, over the last few years. Yeah. There's so much attention, and I think MLS's attention right now has been more on the expansion rather than building up the individual player. And that's been the big thing. Because if you think about all the stories over the last year, the main story has been like, oh, look which team is coming
in here and Nashville and
for what those have been the main stories. And I think now that MLS has said, okay, we're capping it for right now for the next few years, I think you'll start seeing, okay, let's do player build up again. Let's get a bit more attention on the individual stars and the players and try to build them and make them larger than life. Now, with that expansion, it also makes it more difficult to get the one star, because you have so many new teams, and we're getting into the technical areas. And once you get the expansion, you're pulling players away and they're going to different teams, and there isn't this consistency. Look, I'm one of the few players. I played 12 years, at one team. That's amazing. It's like you don't see that too much anymore within MLS, where players are kind of like hopping all over. Now you have big names coming in. You had a like a Zlatan, Ibrahimovic coming in, and you have a Chicharito, and of course, and a Vela, all these coming in. Of course, notice how I'm all LA, but you have the names coming in. It's just that with the expansion in the two different ways, it's kind of I don't think MLS has been able to really focus on the player buildup like you see in well-established, long-term leagues.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic, Cobi. It's fantastic. The time has flown by. We're already at the 45-minute mark, Mario. So I think it's time for us to just kind of wrap up and let everybody off the hook, because they're doing fantastic. Just real quick, Eloisa, great point, Eloisa. Education. We all have soccer in common. People, clubs can't feel afraid of an organization or a federation. They can't feel afraid of that. And I think, again, it's just that friendly face. It's that groundwork, people. I hate to say this, but it's the kissing, handshaking, and you can't do it right now. I get it, COVID times, but it's the whole shake hands, kissing babies thing. You really have to get out there and really get going and really get excited. And I stand corrected. Actually, Robert Harrington said it was England that you guys punished 2-0.
We have a lot of 2-0 victories.
You do. So I'm not going to say it. That's one of the most stinging words you could say to any Mexican American, any Mexican fan, is 2-0. That is never gonna. We're scarred for life.
Can I give you one little dig on that?
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Look, and I know this is basically addressing a Latino community, and a lot of Mexican Americans are watching. And I know a lot of the comeback now is, well, look what the Mexican team has done to the U.S. over the years. But all I got to say is, while I played, my last game against Mexico was 2-0.
That's the feather in the cap, man.
Beautiful. That was this, right?
Mic drop. Where is it?
Mario, wrap it up, my friend. Say goodbye to all these wonderful people. Over right now, over 600 people have interacted, have tuned in, have heard bits and pieces of the conversation. So we're excited. It's gonna grow, Cobi. People are always, jumping on. This is gonna live on our Facebook page. It's just people are interested. They want to know what people like you, the figures like you are thinking, right? Are you thinking about them? And I think you are. I think you are thinking about them, and you are going to be prepared to speak for them as best as that you can, obviously within your realm and your roles. But I'm excited for the future. If in fact you were able to achieve that goal, we're excited for the future. We're really excited. Really excited.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Cobi, for your time, and obviously while you're going through this process, everyone please keep a close eye on his candidacy and look out for the nominations and the notifications and all the updates. Cobi, we know that at least here you have 2 votes in your corner for sure, and I'm sure many more to come. Thank you so much for your time and consideration, and thank you everyone for participating with us. And Cobi, last words, man, are for you, man, as you bid adieu.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, Mario, Julio, thank you for having me on, and to everyone out there that is watching this, thank you for giving me the time to, express my platform and my opinion, and know that if I do get in the position, I'm trying to, work for a better U.S. soccer. You know, that's what it's all about. I want to expand the game, you know, make it inclusive, and, you know, really have that representation and access along with advocacy.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. Everyone be safe. God bless. Be good. And we'll see everyone soon. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Ciao.
Take care.